How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dan School here today, back once again with another Conquest Battle Report for you. I am going to run through Conquest Battle Report Tutorial Mission 7. Don't forget, guys, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by following the link in the description below to my Patreon, where you can pledge at $1, $5 or $12 pledge level. The $12 pledges go towards paying for Mortal Realms magazines, as does all the Patreon support at the moment, but in future I'm looking to up my game when it comes to the channel in terms of maybe getting some sound dampening, lighting and microphones and stuff like that to make the sound better and the lighting, the pictures better. Now, the Imperial Fists have got a new hero joining them today. We get to see the Primaris librarian in action for the first time, and I think it's, for me, he's got a good chance of adding something that the Imperial Fists have been missing and potentially changing the course of this heavy win-loss ratio that the Imperial Fists have had so far. I'll just run through a few of his stats for you. His ballistic skill is 3+, his weapon skill is 3+. His wound, he wounds on shooting of 5 up against Plague Marines and a 3 up against Poxwalkers, and it's the same to wound in close combat too. Attacks, he gets 4 in close combat, he's got a 3 up save, wounds of 5 and a movement value of 6 inches, so it's pretty similar to Lieutenant Calcius, but he knows sidekick powers, meaning we get to use a whole other phase for the Space Marines that we don't get to use for the Imperial Fists. He knows Smite to start off with, which is warp charge value of 5+, meaning it's likely to get rolled each time. And he also knows one called Might of Heroes, which basically gives extra attacks to a model that he casts it on. He can cast it on himself, or he can cast it on another model in the Space Marines forces. It's him and some Reavers against 6 Poxwalkers and 2 squads of 3 Plague Marines. So it's weighted in favour of the Death Guard in terms of numbers and in terms of wounds, but not necessarily really, I'd say, because you get a whole extra phase with the Space Marines that you're not getting with the Death Guard. The aim of these missions, for both sides, I'll go through, starting with the Death Guard. The Death Guard's main objective is to remove the Librarian from play, and the Space Marines' objective is to remove the Plague Marines from play, both units of Plague Marines that is. So it's going to be interesting to see who is more successful. It could end up being a draw if the Librarian's still in play at the end of the game and a unit of Plague Marines is in play at the end of the game. It could end up being a draw, but we'll see. Let's get down to the battlefield. You'll see in front of you guys 2 forces arrayed and nearly ready for battle. We're just going to roll to see who goes first now. And I'll run you through the sides first, actually. So for the Imperial Fist to start, we have a squad of Reavers, and who's this fella here? Well, this is an Imperial Fist Deathwatch Librarian. I decided to paint up the miniature I got as Deathwatch and add into my Deathwatch forces because I don't really want too many Psychers, or any Psychers really, in my Imperial Fist forces. But he's an Imperial Fist Librarian anyway, so obviously he's gone to his Watchmaster and he said, I fear for my
brothers do not see as I. As the forces of the Plague God advance, the green tide approaches. I must petition the Watchmaster.
I would like to go and help them out in the sector. In this sector, so his Watchmaster's been like, yeah, you might as well go then, go and help him out. So he's been seconded to the Death Watch, but he's come back to help out his brothers in the chapter. Now, over to the Death Guard forces. Nothing new here. We've got 2 squads of 3 Plague Marines and a squad of 6 Poxwalkers. Starting to look quite horde-like, though. I do like that. The fact that it's starting to look quite dense and horde-like. The forces there. Imagine what it's going to be like with another 6 Poxwalkers. It's going to be very exciting stuff. Let's roll and see who goes first, shall we? Or see who deploys first. The green dice for the Death Guard, the pearlescent dice for the Imperial Fists. 6 for the Imperial Fists, so they will deploy first, and then we'll come back after that to see who goes first. As you can see, both sides have now deployed. I deployed the librarian first. Probably should have deployed the Reaver first, thinking about it. And then after the librarian deployed, the Poxwalkers deployed over here. The thinking as the Death Guard player is that if the librarian wants to use Smite, then he can only target the nearest visible enemy unit. So as long as the Poxwalkers are always nearer the librarian than the Plague Marines, you can't actually target the Plague Marines. The Reavers are then deployed there because it's either there or there, and I think in the middle it gives them a good chance of charging up the centre or around the outside if they want. Let's roll to see who goes first though. Oh, beggars. The 6 for the Death Guard, so the Death Guard will take the first turn now. I'll come back after movement. Death Guard movement's now finished. The unit of Death Guard that were here have moved over there. This guy can just about see one Reaver, and he's just in rapid fire range as well because it's 18 inches for the Death Guard, let's not forget. So he's going to take a couple of shots into the Reaver, but before that I moved the second squad of Death Guard Plague Marines here behind the cover so the Librarian won't be able to see them, and the Poxwalkers will always be the nearest unit anyway. So if the Librarian wants to use Smite, he'll have to target the Poxwalkers, unless he moves up that way of course. So let's see if this guy here can take out a Reaver with a rapid fire bolter shot. Hitting on 3s. Both hit. Wounding on 4s. 1 wound. So it's going to be a 3-up save for the Reaver, otherwise he'll take a wound. Saved. So, nothing much happened in the first Death Guard turn. Let's move on to the Space Marines turn 1. You can see after the movement now of the Space Marines, it's a very interesting look to the battlefield. The Reavers have moved up to try and get into assault on the Plague Marines at the back there. This primaris librarian though, he can actually just about see those Plague Marines too. You can just about see them there, just beyond the Reavers, a little white bit. So he can see those Plague Marines, and they are within 18 inches, I've measured it. Cannot see the Poxwalkers. So, if he wants to target anyone with Smite, it's going to be those Plague Marines at the back. I've made a slight error in judgment there as a Death Guard player. So, yes, let's go to the Psychic phase now and see if we can get Smite off for the Librarian. So it's a warp charge value of 5, meaning you have to get 5 or more with 2 dice. Perils on a 6, or on a double 6 or a double 1. It's a 6 that he gets, so he does get the psychic power off, meaning this unit at the back here is going to suffer D3 mortal wounds. Let's see how many now. That is 2 wounds. Let's move that bit of fluff, and then that dice. So that's 2 mortal wounds there, but they do get a disgustingly resilient save still. Let's see if they can save either of those with a 5 or a 6. 1 5, so there's just 1 dead Plague Marine there. But that was a big error on the part of the Death Guard player. Let's take out the front guy, making the charge harder for the Reavers. So the shots for the Reavers, the shooting phase for the Reavers, they will be hitting on 3s. Oh. Just 1 hit. Oh, that's cocked dice there. Let's re-roll that one. Nope, just 1 hit. And then they're going to be wounding on 5s. Failed to wound anyway, no problem. So let's roll to see, or let's measure the distance first to see how far this Reaver charge would be. That is 8 inches. That's an 8-inch charge to get him within 1 inch. But first off, we'll fire Overwatch shots for the Plague Marines. Let's do the plasma first, because if it gets hot, the model gets removed. So hitting on 6s. No hits, but no gets hot there either. And then let's do the Blight Launcher. That's going to be hitting on 6s as well. Oh, there is a 6 there on the Blight Launcher. So it's going to be a 4 up to wound. Fails to wound anyway, no problem. It would have been a 5 up save there as well, so that would have been useful if the Blight Launcher had got a hit on the way in. Would have been unlikely to fail to wound, or to fail to do the damage. But yeah, let's see if the Reavers can now charge. It's an 8-inch charge, I said. They need an 8 or more on these dice. they get 4, so they fail that charge. Absolutely disastrous there for the Reavers. They could have taken out a unit of Plague Marines in the first turn there. That would have been very interesting. So let's move on to Death Guard turn 2 now. So now you see the field of battle after the Death Guard movement. The Poxwalker's got a 6-inch advance roll, meaning they move right up there into the field of vision of the Psyker. These Plague Marines at the bottom here, they moved from round here just to here so they can target the Reavers. These guys moved up thinking I could target the Librarian, but then remembering he won't be able to target the Librarian because he's not the nearest unit, and you can't target a character with less than 10 wounds unless they're the nearest unit. So we're going to all have to target the Reavers here. However, there's plenty of firepower going into the Reavers, so these guys are going to shoot first. I'll start with the Blight Launcher. That's going to be hitting on 3s. 1 hit. It's going to be wounding on 4s. Wounds, and it's going to be a 5-up save for the Reavers. Fails to save there, so that is a wound on one of the Reavers. Let's plonk a penny on one of them. This guy. And then let's say the Bolter guy is going to target next. He's well within rapid fire range. He's going to hit on 3s. 1 hit. He's going to wound on 4s. Fails to wound. And then let's say the Plasma guy from this group, he's going to hit on 3s. Both hit. It's going to wound on 2-ups. Oh, 1 failed to wound there. Disastrous. The enemy saves on a 6-up. And it fails to save, so that is another another wound on these Reavers, meaning he's going to go down. So they've both lost a single model now, both sides. And then we'll move on to this unit here. I will start with the Blight Launcher. Again, hitting on 3s. 1 hit. Some bad shooting here from the Death Guard. Wounding on 4s. Fails to wound. And it's going to be the Plasma Gun. Hitting on 3s. 2 hits. Wounding on 2s. 2 wounds, there we go. So we could take out another Reaver here, unless there's a 6-up save on either of these 2 dice. Both failed saves, so that is another Reaver down. I will... Well, the Reaver's probably going to charge next turn anyway, so I'll take out this guy here. And yeah, that's it for the Death Guard shooting phase. Will they go into combat at all? That's the question. I wonder if they should or not, or if they should stay there. I don't really want them being tied up, and they will get Overwatch shots if the Reaver charges them, but they'll get to attack first if they charge. So this unit here is going to charge this Reaver. So the Reaver's going to fire Overwatch. He's going to hit on 6s. Ooh. It's a 3, so that's no hit there. And let's measure the distance that they need to make. It's a 4-inch charge, should be simple, but let's see if they make it. They make it into combat there with ease, so let's move them up, and I'll come back once they're in. Onto the combat phase now, and the guy without any special weapons, the guy that's not the squad sergeant, he's going to attack first, so he gets 1 attack, and he's going to be hitting on 3s. Hits, he's going to wound on 4s. Fails to wound. And now the Power Fist guy is going to hit on 4s because he's got that Power Fist. He's a sergeant as well, so he gets an extra attack. Both hit. He's going to wound on 2s. Both wound. It's going to be no save against the Power Fist. And yeah, that's it. That's the Reaver dead. He's taken 2 wounds there. I was going to say it's going to be D3 damage, but there's no need to do that. So take him out, and now the Death Guard can consolidate if they want towards the nearest enemy model, but they're not going to, in the hope that the primaris librarian can't make them the closest unit. But let's see, I'll come back after the movement phase of Imperial Fist turn 2. So Imperial Fist movement phase has now finished. You may think this is a strange thing to do, but I advanced the librarian. I advanced him because if he advances, he can still use his psychic powers. and I couldn't get him close enough to target the Plague Marines. He was always going to be targeting the Poxwalkers with Smite, so I decided to advance him to make sure I got him close enough to target the Plague Marines with the Smite Psychic Power. And because of that, yes, let's roll to see if he gets his Psychic Power off. So we're on to the Psychic phase now. He needs a... Oh, wrong dice there. Jiminy crickets. He needs to get a 5 or more to get Smite off. He gets he gets an 11. Very nice. So he targets the nearest visible enemy unit, that is the Plague Marines, and they'll get D3 mortal wounds. They'll get 3 mortal wounds, meaning they've got to make 3 disgusting and resilient saves, or that's a dead unit. Oh, 3, not 2. So 3, 5, they need at least 2 5s up here. Oh, just 1 5 up, meaning there's 2 wounds taken by this unit, and that is 2 dead Plague Marines. So I'll come back in turn 3 after the Death Guard movement phase. This is what the battlefield looks like after the Death Guard movement phase. The Poxwalkers move from here to here, just to make sure they are the closest unit. They're just over an inch away from the librarian there, meaning he can't target the Plague Marines, and I'm planning on charging the Poxwalkers into the librarian, and potentially we'll see how it goes here. But I'll anyway, let's move on to the shooting phase now instead of just waffling on. So I'll start with the guy with the bolter first. He's going to get 2 shots into the librarian, and he's going to hit on 3s. I don't know why I struggle to remember that. That is no hits, absolutely disastrous shooting there. And let's move on to the guy with the light launcher. He's going to get 2 shots. He's going to hit on 3s. 2 hits. He's going to wound on 4s. Ooh, 1 wound. It's a 5 up save from the librarian required. Fails to save, so that's a wound taken by the librarian. Let's get myself a penny. So now the last remaining weapon to shoot from this unit is going to be the plasma gun. It's going to hit on 3s, 2 shots less than 18 inches, or 18 inches or less. Oh, there is a 1 there, so that means the model's going to get removed from play, but he does hit with the other shot. It's going to wound on 2s. Just about wounds, so it could be worth it there. And it's a 6 up save from the librarian, or he'll take another wound. It's a 5, so it's a failed save. He'll be taking another wound. He's down to 3 wounds now. I'll just put these markers here at the side of the battlefield because I'm going to charge with the Poxwalkers now. So the Psyker, the librarian, is going to fire Overwatch into the Poxwalkers, and he's going to hit on 6s with his bolt pistol. It's a hit! Way! He's going to wound on 3s. Fails to wound. Unfortunate. Could have taken one of them out before they'd even got into combat there. I'm going to roll, even though I don't need to. Oh, they got a 3-inch charge, so that limits the amount of distance he can get in. This guy will move to here. This guy to here. Everyone else can just move in to try and all get into combat with that 3-inch charge. There we go. Something like that. I'm thinking now, do I want to charge in with the Plague Marines as well? I think I will charge in with the Plague Marines, and I'll just measure to see how far that charge is going to be. It looks like 4-inch charge to me. You know what, I've got this, yeah, it's a 4-inch charge, or maybe it's a 3-inch charge actually. Just about a 3-inch charge. I was going to say, I've got this, these markers on the side of the battlefield that I could have just used and estimated it there. But anyway, it's a 3-inch charge, so the Plague Marines are going to need a 3-inch charge now. That's 6 inches, so they get in, absolutely. This guy, and this guy. Oh, he can't get in. Unless his mate budges round. Oh, he's just in. There we go. So I'll come back with some rolls for you. The Poxwalkers might as well attack first, I think, because both of these units charge, so it means both the Death Guard units will get to attack first. The Poxwalkers will attack first, though, and they're going to get 12 attacks in total. That's 4, 12. 12 attacks in total, and they are going to hit on 5s. A lot of 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. They're going to wound on 5s as well. 1 wound, and it's a 3-up save for the librarian. So let's roll that with one of his dice. Fails a save again, so he takes another wound. He's down to 2 wounds remaining now. The Death Guard could have it here. I really thought the Imperial Fists would do well in this battle, but we'll see, because the librarian might survive. I'll go on to the Death Guard attacks now. The guy with... So I've got a guy without any special weapons here. He's just going to hit him with his bolter. He's going to hit on 3s. Hits, he's going to wound on 4s. Fails to wound. Now it's on to the guy with the plague sword, or plague knife. He's going to hit on 3s. Hits, he's going to wound, re-rolling 1s, but he's going to wound on 4s. Wounds, and then it's a 3-up save for the librarian. Fails to save again, so he's only got 1 wound remaining now. One of his 5 wounds now remaining, and it's down to the last guy, the sergeant with the power fist. So he's going to hit on 4s. Hits with one of them. He's going to wound on 2s. There's no save for the librarian. So that means the librarian's dead. And the Imperial Fists are defeated yet again. There you have it. It's another victory for the Death Guard. They're really keeping on top of the Imperial Fists here in these tutorial missions. I noticed, though, that I have forgotten a couple of things. Or if one of them wouldn't have changed anything, another might have actually made it a slightly more emphatic victory for the Death Guard. I can't really remember my roles particularly. But one of them was I didn't cast Might of Heroes because I didn't realise before filming the battle that you could cast both psychic powers. I know you can in regular games of 40k, but I didn't read the Might of Heroes rule properly. It says the librarian can use Might of Heroes and Smite in the same turn. However, that wouldn't have affected the outcome of the battle anyway, because I don't think the Imperial Fists actually made any attacks in close combat. They were charged by the Death Guard, and they didn't get to attack back because they were wiped out before they got to make their attacks anyway. And the other thing I made a slight mistake on was the Blight Launcher. The Blight Launcher now gets 2 shots, wounds on 3+, and the enemy saves on a 5+. So I was rolling to wound on a 4+ instead of a 3+. It might have made a difference with 1 or 2 of the times I used the Blight Launcher in the battle. I'm not too sure, but it was a Death Guard victory anyway, so no big deal really, I'd say. Yeah, it was interesting. The librarian, I could have tried to move him a slightly different way so he wasn't so visible to the Death Guard forces. However, I needed to make sure that the Death Guard forces were visible to him, the ones that I wanted to target in particular. And whilst this battle might seem like a massive victory for the Death Guard, it's actually not that big a victory, I'd argue, because the aim of this battle for the Death Guard forces was to try and wipe out the librarian, which they did. The aim of the battle for the Space Marine forces was to try and wipe out 2 units of Plague Marines. So they got one of the units of Plague Marines out of action, and had the Reavers stayed alive a little bit longer, or had they managed to get a charge off themselves, it could have gone the other way. We could have taken some more wounds off the Death Guard, and it would have been a little more interesting, I think, than this particular battle. It was an interesting one for me because I've not used Psychers that often before in games of 40k that I've played. The only Psyker I've used is an Orc Weird Boy, and I just used the jump on him because that's the best one to use for Orcs. I think in future missions, as I use the librarian a little bit more, I think I'll get more used to the psychic phase, and I'll get more used to making sure I get both of those powers off, or at least attempting to get both of those powers off. And as we learn more psychic powers going through the course of the magazine subscription, it's going to be interesting to see how his role in the game changes. that's all I've got for you. That's the summary I've got of this battle. So I'm going to leave it there for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.